It is a lot going on in the world of Caitlin Clark. New sponsorships to the left, new deals to the right. It's a lot going on. We are gonna get to every. Oh, that's a boss move. Oh, that's a crazy boss move. That's a flex. Hey, listen, I understand. You got Nike deals, you got freaking PGA Golf Tour, Live Golf Tour, you got hockey sponsor. I know you got a lot going on, but to turn down 15 M's.
Oh man, buckle up, because the Caitlin Clark universe just went completely off the rails. We're talking sponsorships flying in from every direction, multi-million-dollar contracts sliding across tables, and league executives losing sleep like it's finals week. Imagine this. The WNBA commissioner confidently drops a record-shattering $50 million offer right in front of Caitlin Clark, the kind of deal that was supposed to change women's basketball forever. But instead of fireworks, tears, or even a second glance, Clark just sits there, cool as ice, shrugs her shoulders and says, "Nah, I'm good." And in that one instant, the entire league imploded. Fans are freaking out, haters are throwing tantrums, and the commissioner probably needs a therapist on speed dial right now. Because this wasn't just a rejection, it was a power move so savage it shook the foundation of the sport.
10 weeks. He must be making some good dough, and I just think that it was more like a league thing.
She didn't want to be
anything.
Yeah,
she had to give the WNBA.
And I'm sure many offers came to her, especially after that. I think we helped her.
Yeah, make more money
with some more money. If anything, you got a name like Ice Cube offering you $15 million. On publicly, man, you got all that. That's all you need. That's all you need for the other five and the other five and the other five to come together.
To really understand why Caitlin Clark's rejection has the whole sports world spinning out of control, you have to rewind the tape and look at just how unstoppable she's been on her rise to superstardom. Because this isn't just a rookie story. This is the story of a generational player who turned women's basketball into must-see television. Back in college, she was draining threes from what felt like the parking lot, leaving defenders frozen like extras in her personal highlight reel. And fans weren't just watching, they were begging for tickets, selling out arenas like it was a pop concert. Her games broke, viewing records, her jerseys sold out in minutes, and by the time she stepped into the WNBA, she wasn't just joining a league, she was dragging the entire league into the spotlight. With her, every move became a headline. Every shot became a viral clip, and every appearance doubled the value of whatever court she was standing on. Caitlin Clark wasn't just playing basketball, she was rewriting what it meant to be a women's athlete in America, and that's exactly why the commissioner thought locking her down with a record-shattering deal would be the safest move ever. But what nobody expected was that Clark would flip the script in a single moment and remind everyone she doesn't need the league nearly as much as the league needs her.
Unrivaled. If y'all thought a few million and some equity was going to get her to show up and play in your league, you got another thing coming. I said it. If Unrivaled want Caitlin Clark, y'all, a minimum of 10 million plus like 50% ownership of the whole league. That's where we start. That's the starting negotiation point. I might have undersold her, y'all. I might have undersold Caitlin Clark. Look at...
The second that contract slid back across the table, the WNBA didn't just take a loss, they went into full-blown meltdown mode. Executives who thought they were making history suddenly looked like they had just set the league on fire. Fans instantly split in two, with one side calling Caitlin Clark a genius and the other side calling her reckless. But either way, the internet couldn't get enough social media lit up like Times Square memes flooded every timeline in sports. Shows treated it like a Wall Street crash. Crossed with a royal scandal the commissioner had planned for confetti cannons and celebration headlines, but what she got instead was humiliation on a massive scale. Imagine throwing the ultimate surprise party with fireworks, cameras, and Beyoncé booked to sing, and the guest of honor doesn't even show up. That's exactly how the league looked in that moment. The deal they thought would cement the future ended up exposing just how fragile the future really is, and the wildest part is, Clark didn't even have to explain herself. Her silence said it all. She was making more from Nike Gatorade and State Farm than the league could ever hope to match. So why tie herself down for pennies compared to the empire she's already building, and that reality sent the WNBA into panic, scrambling for answers and scrambling to save face because suddenly the truth was impossible to ignore. The balance of power had shifted. It shifted entirely into Caitlin Clark's hands.
The league is on welfare, okay? If they weren't on welfare, then the league would fold and there would be no women's basketball. And that is basically what has been revealed in this bombshell report about the WNBA being on track to lose roughly $50 million this year. $50 million, which is significantly more than the WNBA had been losing on a yearly basis in the past. Now, again, this is a little bit surprising because of the explosion in popularity of the WNBA due to Caitlin Clark, okay? But once we get into the details, it's not really all that surprising. But at the same time, reports like this kind of drive home the point that reasonable people have been trying to make about the WNBA.
By the time the shock settled in, it was clear this wasn't just about one contract. This was about the entire business model of women's basketball. Suddenly, networks who had just signed shiny broadcast deals started panicking because, let's be honest, those deals weren't for the WNBA brand, they were for Caitlin Clark's guaranteed ratings. Sponsors weren't lining up for the league, they were lining up for her name on a jersey, and ticket prices weren't skyrocketing because of a new marketing campaign. They were skyrocketing because Clark was in the building. She wasn't just a player, she was the league's entire economy on two legs. And when she turned down $50 million, she basically proved she could take all that momentum and walk it right out the door. Endorsements from Nike, Gatorade, and State Farm are already paying her more than league checks ever could. Commercials and appearances turn her into a household name, and every viral clip cements her as a global superstar. So when the WNBA tried to play hardball, Clark reminded them she doesn't need their ball at all. And that terrified executives who suddenly realized they weren't negotiating from power, they were negotiating from desperation. This rejection wasn't a gamble, it was a statement the league needs. Caitlin Clark far more than Caitlin Clark will ever need the league, and every fan and player watching understood that instantly. The reaction from fans and players was nothing short of explosive, because the second news broke that Caitlin Clark had walked away from $50 million. The basketball world split right down the middle. On one side were the critics, calling her ungrateful, a diva, even a sellout, saying she owed it to the league that gave her a platform. But let's be real, the WNBA didn't make Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark made the WNBA matter because before her highlights were buried deep in social media feeds now, arenas are selling out, and casual fans are tuning in just to see her play. And on the other side were her supporters who crowned her a genius, praising her for knowing her value and refusing to be boxed in by a league that can't match what she's already worth to them. This wasn't arrogance, it was self-awareness. It was leverage. It was Caitlin Clark showing every athlete in the world that gratitude doesn't pay the bills and that endorsements and media opportunities and personal branding can pay triple what the WNBA can ever offer. Debate shows on ESPN went wall to wall, treating her rejection like it was the end of the league before it even truly began. Memes roasted the commissioner. Like, the whole thing was a failed marriage proposal, and sports radio callers couldn't stop arguing whether Clark had just saved her career or doomed the league. But here's the reality, both sides were right, because in one savage move, she proved the power was entirely hers, and the league's survival now depended on how it handled the fallout. Behind the scenes, the WNBA looked less like a professional league and more like a reality show. In full crisis mode, executives pacing boardrooms, sweating through their suits, social media managers pumping out highlight reels and hashtags, trying desperately to shift the conversation while insiders whispered about emergency meetings to figure out how to stop the bleeding. But the damage was already done because Caitlin Clark had flipped the power dynamic in front of the entire world. The commissioner had spent months preparing this deal, expecting to lock down the future of women's basketball, only to watch it explode in her face. And now, the league was scrambling like a teenager, trying to delete their browser history before their parents walked in. And what made it worse was the fact that other players were watching closely, calculating their own value, realizing maybe they didn't have to settle for scraps either. Caitlin had set a precedent, and the WNBA knew it. If one player could reject $50 million with a straight face, others might start testing their leverage too. which is why the panic in those boardrooms wasn't just about losing Clark, it was about losing control. The balance had shifted permanently. And every sleepless night for the commissioner was a reminder that one decision from Caitlin Clark had the power to unravel everything they thought they had built. What the league completely underestimated was the mountain of endorsements already stacked in Caitlin Clark's corner, because while they were trying to dangle $50 million like it was the holy grail, Nike had already cut her an 8-figure shoe deal. Gatorade was lining up campaigns with her face front and center, and State Farm was ready to put her in commercials every fan in America would see before they even turned on a WNBA game. And when you add up those checks, plus the viral highlight clips pulling millions of views online, plus the merchandise sales that were breaking records before she ever touched a professional court, the truth is, she didn't need that $50 million because she's already making more than that without having to grind through back-to-back games in half-empty arenas to Caitlin Clark. The league's offer wasn't security, it was a leash, a way to tie her down when her brand is already global and limitless. And that's why her rejection hit so much harder. It wasn't just about the money, it was about control. It was her saying loud and clear, "You don't own me." And every sponsor, every network, and every fan watching knew she meant it, and that's exactly why the WNBA was left scrambling with no answer. The public humiliation for the WNBA was brutal because this wasn't some quiet negotiation behind closed doors. This was the league parading its biggest offer in history like a victory lap, only to get smacked with the coldest rejection possible right in front of the entire world. And the internet wasted no time roasting them. Memes exploded across Twitter and Instagram, showing the commissioner sweating at press conferences, captions mocking the league with lines like, "When you realize your whole business depends on a 22-year-old," and fake ads popping up with desperate slogans like, "Please, Caitlin, we'll even throw in free snacks for life." The story dominated headlines, sports shows treated it like a government scandal, and casual fans who had never even watched a game were suddenly tuned in just to see how bad the league had fumbled the bag. And here's the kicker, Caitlin Clark didn't even have to say a word. Her silence was louder than anything the commissioner could spin. And every time she stepped on the court, every time a sold-out arena chanted her name, it was another reminder that the WNBA wasn't in control anymore. The leverage had flipped and it was all hers. This is where the story goes beyond just one league. Because Caitlin Clark's rejection wasn't just a business decision, it was a cultural shift, a warning shot to every sports organization that the old rules don't apply anymore for decades. Women athletes were told to smile, take whatever crumbs were offered, and be grateful for the opportunity. But by casually walking away from $50 million, Clark flipped the script and showed that leverage, not loyalty, is what pays the bills. She didn't just turn down money, she turned down control. And that one move sparked a conversation across every corner of sports media about whether we're witnessing the beginning of a revolution in women's athletics. Suddenly, younger players are looking at her blueprint, realizing they don't have to settle either. Suddenly, sponsors see the value in attaching themselves to individuals, not leagues. And suddenly, the WNBA has to face the brutal reality that its future rests on stars who know they can walk away at any moment. Caitlin Clark became the blueprint for empowerment, not the glossy poster kind, the real kind that terrifies executives, because she proved the balance of power isn't in a boardroom or a commissioner's office. It's in the hands of the athletes who actually move the culture. And by turning down that deal, she didn't just protect her own future, she may have just rewritten the playbook for every woman in sports. At the end of the day, Caitlin Clark's rejection of that $50 million deal wasn't just another headline. It was a seismic moment that exposed exactly where the power really lies in women's basketball. And the answer is not in the commissioner's office or the boardrooms or even the broadcast networks. It's with the superstar who can fill arenas, sell out jerseys, and pull millions of eyes to a screen all by herself. Clark reminded the world that she doesn't need the league nearly as much as the league needs her, and the beauty of it is she didn't even have to explain. She just kept playing, kept breaking records, and kept stacking endorsements while the WNBA scrambled to spin the story and figure out how to recover from the biggest rejection in its history. Caitlin Clark isn't just changing the game, she's rewriting the rules for every athlete who comes after her, proving that knowing your value and refusing to settle is the ultimate power move. And now, the only question left is how long the league can survive. When its brightest star has already shown the world, she's bigger than the stage they tried to keep her on.